Welcome to another beautifully well conversation with your girl, Coach Nick. And I'm excited, but you always know I'm excited, especially when I'm in front of another one of our ladies who is embracing becoming beautifully well. If you are a parent out there on a mission of healthy change for your household, I'm telling you, Ayafa story in this short interview, a prelude to what's to come, you want to stay tuned. So, Ayafa, I'm so happy to have you with us today. And you've joined the program, the Beautifully Well Lifestyle Program. Tell us why you decided to jump into a program.
I've gotten to a point where I felt like I really needed someone else's help, you know, because after so much of life and you just need, some extra hands on it. And the wake up call was when my daughter's blood was tested and she was 1 point away from being borderline or pre-diabetic. And then I want to say the next week or two later, I got my work done, and then I was technically pre diabetic. And so, that's sounding the alarms. And I'm like, I have kids to raise, and more importantly, I thought I was pretty healthy, but obviously that points to something going on where I don't know everything. So, better to seek an expert with the things you don't know.
That is awesome. It sounds like you recognized early on that something is not quite right.
hmm
It was a little bit of a shock because you were already embracing some healthy habits, right?
hmm
Healthy things were happening. Um, and then you noticed that there was a need to turn some attention to baby girl.
hmm
So tell me a little bit about some of the changes that you're making or some of the adjustments that you realized were needed or necessary in order to keep reducing your risk of type 2 diabetes.
So I have two children. One is 13, the other is soon to be 3. And I do know that since having the almost 3-year old, that I'm not as active as I used to be, especially being like an all-star athlete back in high school, middle school, and all of that stuff. So it's just in me to want to move around. But I had definitely gotten out of that since my last pregnancy. And my eldest is not particularly athletic. So, what I've done to change that, we actually just finished this program for her called Run Baltimore, where the Johns Hopkins track team, they actually coach kids up to grade 8 on, I want to say 6 sessions of track and field, or mainly track, I should say. And so we just finished that last session, but we want to keep going strong with it and trying to get out to the track every single week since it's something we've already started making a habit of it. And she'll get out and join me eventually, but I actually found like a less than 2 mile hiking trail 5 minutes from my home. And I've started, doing that for myself, taking nature walks, which is something I've always needed and I knew I needed. But, when life starts life and you forget.
There you go. Well, you jumped right into action on this. You identified, you know, on one side of the coin, you were making some healthier choices, but noticed that physical activity was waning, even though there was a
Mhm,
point in your life where no one had to tell you to go to the gym because you were an athlete in
mhm,
high school. You know the power of activity. And you also recognize that your daughter didn't naturally get that trait like mama. Like,
mhm,
I'm definitely down. I'm down for the healthier, I'm down for exercise activity, but you found a program to engage.
mhm,
And it's something that you both do together and enjoy. That is awesome. Now, that's on the activity side.
mhm.
Let's talk a little bit about nutrition. So, what's changed or what have you modified in your efforts to eat healthier as a family?
I've become more conscious of us. We still eat. So I've always been a fairly healthy cook. However, we've had to incorporate more vegetables, and I've had to resort to sneaking more vegetables into some of the foods I already make.
Sneaking them in. How do you do that?
Sometimes you depending on the type of dish, if you're making a sauce, it's easy to cook down those vegetables and use an immersion blender or a regular blender and just blend them up. They'll never know. Um, promise you they won't know. And different things like that. Also starting to sub some meals with a full-on salad-based meal. And I don't know if I'm allowed to name drop this, but I figured out how to make the green goddess salad myself. And so
Yes.
yeah, when we do that, it's a whole fiasco in the kitchen, but it's worth
It's worth it. And it sounds like your children are enjoying this. I mean, they're miles apart in a sense when you say 3
it.
and 13, and yet we know the goal doesn't change for either one of them, right? Health
Hmm.
is going to be the drive of it. How have they embraced this? Like, what are their favorite dishes, or have you noticed a change in them or a desire for them to yeah, what are your thoughts?
So my 13-year-old's favorite dish is anything that I cook. Um, that's
You
her
got it
favorite.
made.
As long as I cook it, she's down with it because you can taste love in food.
Mm.
So, and then my 3-year-old, she's more of the picky eater. But what I have noticed, I wound up getting her a Montessori stand. If I allow her to help me cook, she's more inclined to eat it. So if I let her prep or help me cook and things like that, she sees what's actually happening. She'll at least try a bit of it. So
Engaging them at
yeah.
that level is so important. And that's what's happening. They're a part of this process. So they're seeing healthy as part of the everyday.
Hmm.
It's not, so extreme or such a change that it's an everyday way. It's a
Hmm.
lifestyle. So, what would you say your big goal or your big takeaway? You mentioned early on that although, you're very familiar with what it takes to be healthy, but
Hmm.
desiring to align yourself with some support, some resources, that deem it as helpful. So what would you like to accomplish by the time you complete the lifestyle program? What's the bigger picture?
The bigger picture is definitely overall wellness because, along with nutritional wellness, I had to realize that there was also how would I say it? A mindset wellness. I had to get back involved with like my spiritual coaches and things like that and the therapist, to realize that it was a whole entire thing going on, not just nutrition, but at a soul level, I just expect to be more complete within myself and more balanced within myself by the time I finish, your program.
Ah, complete, balanced, whole person, whole journey, well-being. I get goosebumps. I do, because we know it's more than broccoli in a Zumba class, and you hit it on the
Mhm.
nose. That part of this community that comes out of the program with its talk about nutrition, its talk about the benefits of fitness, is that we're able to hone in on you as a whole person,
Mhm.
you as a mom, you as a caregiver, a supporter. Um, that life is life in at times and life becomes complicated. So what happens when I don't want to reach for the broccoli? What happens when you don't feel like making that green goddess salad? Well, we got baby girl know how to make it now.
Mhm.
She can hook mommy up, right?
Yep.
But we think about that the dimension of wellness is beyond those physical, tangible things like the run at the track, the program
Mhm.
with fitness, which is awesome. It's another connector, but it's the mindset that drives you to be able to continue to lead the way for those physical, the physical activities and really taking care of you as a person that mindset that drives you to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
That is awesome. So, um, I learned a lot in this short period of time, and I hope our listeners, right, because the beauty of this brief conversation in so many ways, for you as a mom, 3-year old, a 13-year-old, we know what happens to our girls when they're in that age group, that age range where health is changing, life is changing
Mm-hmm.
for them. And how do you become more aware of that, as a mom, including being a busy mom because of that toddler running around, your
Mm-hmm.
preschooler running around. And you did just that. But I will tell you that the biggest mic drop in this conversation with speaking to you, beautiful, is that with everything you have going on, your health is a priority. So for that mom, listening, trying to figure out, oh my gosh, how do I do it all? How do I take care of my health and make sure my 3-year old is fine, make sure my teenager is fine? You have a life of your own, a relationship to contend with.
Mm-hmm.
And it becomes, but how do I make room and make time for me? And you've done that. You've done that successfully.
I'm trying.
It's happening. So, last two questions, I promise.
Mm-hmm.
What would you tell an overwhelmed woman? What advice would you give her if she had access to a healthy lifestyle program, but was just trying to debate if she could make time for it? What advice would you give her?
I'm gonna give you the same advice that I was given at one of my spiritual initiations, which you cannot do anything for a single person unless you've done two things for yourself first. And so, of course, we're going to associate that with your mind, body, and spirit, and then a little treat somewhere, not necessarily food related for you. So, you got to do two things for yourself before you can take care of anybody else.
I love that. Yeah. What have you done for you? Are you on that to-do list? Are you no
Because
longer neglecting you?
and you can't do anything for you for anybody else if yourself isn't taken care of.
Absolutely.
That's always the wake up call.
Hmm. What have you done for you? That's a good litmus test to your health as well, right? Because if we aren't
Right.
carving out time for ourselves, then we know other areas of our health is affecting the impact as well,
Hmm.
right? So the moms, the parents that are out there with younger ones, our preteens and our teens getting ready to become molded in their health journey,
Hmm.
what would you tell a mama or how would you encourage her when she has that young little lady getting ready to bud and blossom?
Mm.
What would you tell her or advice would you give her, our moms with our teens and our preteens, in regards to their health?
Oof. What would I say? I'm still figuring it out. I haven't completely figured it out. I just knew that we needed some help, um, especially, in amongst the Black community specifically. We have a lot of things that they call hereditary, which is really just learned behavior more than
Mm.
anything. And so, trying to battle that mindset that a lot of us do growing up in food deserts, you just got to know that there is better and to seek better, and don't get down on yourself by thinking, oh, you are a failure or you're failing at something. Take that mindset out of it as well, because that's probably the first place I went when I saw my daughter's blood levels. I was like, oh my God, I'm failing her as a mother. But that's not necessarily fair either. So, be fair to yourself, and just give yourself grace, because it's a lot and we don't know everything.
Mm. That was perfectly said. It was well stated. I know initially you said you're still trying to figure this thing out, but you figured out a lot. And
I'm still figuring it out because it's ever
yeah.
changing. These kids are ever changing.
And the first thing you figured out is that, whoa, I'm not going to walk away looking down at my toes on this, right? I
Hmm.
need to, this is what the situation is. Now let's work through this and let's use what we have access to do it. And the non-judgmental and the positive mindset that you brought out, because remember, they're watching us.
Right.
And we're not body shaming our babies.
Right.
We aren't putting thing, we are aiming to help them develop a positive mindset around health without a focus on what they can't do, what they shouldn't do. And you hit it on the nose. In our communities, there's so many things that we are predisposed to. We
Hmm.
do not, we don't have to go that route. We don't have to go all the way. We can pull it back before we get all, before we allow ourselves to become influenced or affected, as I call it, by some of
Hmm.
these systemic things. um they're there, they're present, we're aware of them, but you are knocking it out the park, mama.
Thank you. I just get up and try, honestly, every
Yes,
single day.
all the time. So this was a great, opportunity. I thank you. We're excited. The Amani Nicol Wellness Tribe, the Beautifully Well Lifestyle community, is so excited to have you as a beautiful on board. Brand new to the program and yet so full of fire. And you bring such a richness to this journey. And of course, it was just my delight in our first few conversations that you mentioned your daughter, and what you're doing in your own household to propel what we call generational health. So
Mhm.
I'm excited that you've decided to allow us to continue this conversation. A very special conversation is going to take place in November. Every family member, every mama, every parent will want to tune into this next section, to the next set in this conversation. Can't wait for that, where we're able to go a little more in depth. But most importantly, keep doing what you're doing. Thank you for choosing us to be
Thank
a
you for
part
having me.
of your journey. We sincerely, wholeheartedly appreciate it and looking forward to you living your lifestyle beautifully well.
Thank you.